So we've measured that, counted the paces. I'm going to write them down quickly before I forget, and then work out how it compares with my normal pacing, and then I've got an idea for that type of terrain. We came out dead on the corner. Now that wasn't because I'm just some fantastic navigator. I did actually aim for 20 metres that way, doing what I said, aiming off, so when I hit the fence I knew to turn right. As it happened, we ended up exactly at the point. So I could have claimed I was brilliant, but I think there was an element of luck in there. And probably didn't help with me, maybe because I said about walking on slopes, I may have been staggering like a drunken man, which I'm always pointing out I know how to do, and I drifted slightly to the right. But that's why I aimed off, to allow for that. Now, what next? Well, I'm going to put the camera away because I've got an easy bit of navigation now. I've just got to keep an eye on the distance travel. So I'll be doing some pacing down the hill and up the hill, but I'm going to follow the fence line. The fence line is marked clearly on the map at the edge of the wood, so all I have to do is follow that, and I'm basically going to aim for a point where the ground stops going down and starts to go up steeply. That'll be a sign to me, if it was thick fog, that I've hit the point where the ground's climbing away, and then I can reassess my position. Now, let's go. I've made progress, taken a lot of readings. My 70 paces, double paces on the flat. On some of this terrain, even where it's relatively flat, it's looking more like 100 paces, double paces. Do you know, every time I say that, I get it wrong. Double paces, let's get to it. And we need a drink as well in a minute by the sound of my voice. I've hit the hill where I said it goes up very steeply, very suddenly, and it's too steep for me to walk up carrying this rucksack. So I'm traversing around the slope, zigzagging backwards and forwards, so I'm making the incline less. The only problem is I'm not sure where I am on the slope, so again I've used the slope aspect and taken a bearing, and on the map, which I'm going to show you now separately, I've followed the edge of the hill and I found this is the position where I'm standing at the moment, and you can tell that to the left it's bearing away to the left, which it would obviously, and the right it's coming round to the right, but it's curving inwards both sides, which means that that bit that I'm looking at is that little promontory sticking out, which we can see on the map here. So I know where I am. I'm not sure how high up I am. So what I'm going to do is keep zigzagging backwards and forwards, and when I get to the top and it levels out, we'll have a look down the slope aspect again, draw a line, follow it up to the flat bit, which I hope is going to be the top of this section. Did that make any sense? It makes sense in here, but I doubt whether anybody else will have a clue what I'm talking about. I mean, I don't have a clue what I'm talking about sometimes, but right, I'm going to get round this next corner, then I'm going to stop because it sounds like I really need to put some water in. So I've carried on zigzagging, and I'm pretty sure But I haven't done a slope aspect bearing just now where I am on this map. Now if you look down there, you can see how steep it is where I've zigzagged my way up. And now I've just come over the edge and you can see how it's smoothed out quite a lot. It's still quite a way up to the top, which is probably where that tree is. But if you look on the map here, you can see distinctly the change in the contour pattern. And I'm reasonably confident that I am just here, give or take 20 metres, which is near enough for this business. It might not be near enough if we were looking for a box full of gold, jewels or hidden treasure. I'd want to be dead on for that. So I've got to plod on up to the top and then decide where to head for next. So, you know why I say so before everything? It's so I can get my breath to carry on speaking. Stopping for had a drink back there, a little break halfway up. Gonna have another one now. I've got a little way to go, well, quite a way to go before I know there's a stream. At least there's one marked on the map. So, anyway, I know I'm at the top, and if it was dark I probably would be able to see something, and it's quite obvious I'm at the top because in every direction the land's going down around me. Now when we set off I was following the fence and I stayed to the, as I'm walking, to the right hand side of the fence. Now I know that the fence leads to my next waymarker, so logically if I turn left, which I did, which was down there to come up to the top of here, I worked on the assumption that if I kept going left and walked back, which would be west towards where this fence should be, I should find it. And sure enough, if you look down there, there it is. Carry on along there, and all I've got to do is follow that, and supposedly when I get to the end of it there is a valley. Now from here we can see that valley going down with the trees in it, and there should be water there. So that's our objective. When I say ours, I mean mine. Usually it's ours because, as you know, there's usually me and you doing everything together. But you're in there, and so you don't need a drink. Me, I do, so I've got to go and replenish the water. So it's worked out well as that. I've learned quite a bit, and using the slope aspect has navigated me to where I wanted to be on the map, and I've kept myself generally with a good idea as to where I am within 50 metres. So yeah, I'm happy with that. You might not know it, but this is my pissed off look. Since I last switched this camera off, I have been paddling around up the tops there, through all those tussocks for 2 hours. I found my water. I say water, it was a bit of a trickle of a stream, and after I filled my container it didn't look very appetising, but just pop a couple of tablets in there to sterilise it and it'll be fine, you know. Anyway, so why am I sat down here on this tussock? Well, I've given up. After 2 hours I'm absolutely knackered and I can't find anywhere dry and flat to put the tent up. So I looked at going higher. It was far too rocky and craggy, no flat space. Came back down onto the flatter area, but the flatter area is just a swamp. I've been paddling around in it up to here sometimes in sludge. So I was about to give in and I'm making my way back down this slope. And to be fair, I did come here specifically because of all the different slopes, because I wanted to practice that slope aspect navigating. And yeah, I've got slopes, I've got too many of the damn things, you know where to put the tent up. So on the way down I've found this little patch here that isn't completely flat, it's slightly sloping and it looks like it might get a little bit damp, but I'm confident that the new tent will cope with that because it has forecast rain. And so I'm going to set it up and this is going to be the camp for the night. It isn't what I wanted to be higher up and it just isn't going to happen. So before I get completely exhausted, I'll get the tent up and then I might just have a last little chat with you before we finish this video and then get myself comfortable and get some food cooked up. Oh, there was one nice thing about up there. I spotted some wildlife. Take a look at this. Now I know what you're thinking, not much of the wildlife, all we can see is the back end of them. Well, by the time I got the camera out, they'd spotted me and they were off. So, but anyway, I was quite pleased to see that, but it's the only thing up there I have been pleased to see. So right, let's get this tent up and get settled in for the evening. Well, that's it. That's us finished for this trip. I will be carrying on myself tomorrow, leaving you behind. I hope you've understood something I've talked about. Probably not, but don't worry, because nobody usually does understand anything I say. But I thought we'd finish off with a little story, a little bedtime story. And don't worry if it isn't your bedtime. It's bedtime somewhere in the world at the moment. These boots, Hanwag, very good quality, German make. They are something that I wear not all the time, just for certain terrain, and this is the terrain I'd wear them. And that is because they're quite high, they stop the water coming in when you're sinking in the bogs up there. They're very strong, they're very supportive. And the reason I like them when I'm in situations like that is because I've got one ankle, this one, that's twice as big as that one. And that came about in a previous life when I used to work for a truck racing team. Now, one of my jobs was I had to make sure that the truck arrived at the start for time practice before anybody else's team truck. And God forbid if you didn't get it there, our driver was a chap by the name of Steve Parrish. Now, for any of you people who are familiar with motorcycle racing, that is Grand Prix and Superbike, you'd know I'm on about. Yeah, that one. Complete idiot. But very good at his job. And he doesn't really suffer fools gladly. So get the truck there on time. And this particular morning in Italy, breakfast was ready. And I'm not talking your cereal stuff and a bit of flipping yoghurt. I'm talking the full English. 2 sausages, 2 bacon, 2 eggs, mushrooms, yeah. And I'm just about to sit down and eat it, and somebody shouts, "Truck needs to go to time practice." Oh, God. Now, I had a colleague by the name of Gust, short for August. Very nice Swiss gentleman. And he would normally just stay back at the pit space, and I'd take the truck and we'd get sorted. This time he said, "Look, I'll take the truck and you can eat your breakfast." Great. But he needed me to go out and open the gate. When I say gate, I'm talking about some barriers across the front of the pit space. Now, they were there to keep the crowds back, who were always pushing, wanting to get in. They wanted pins, posters and everything like this. So I went to open the gate. Well, of course, as soon as they saw me come in, well, they were pushing, they were clamouring for autographs, shouting, "Sign, sign, autogram, autogram." Yeah. Okay, maybe I'm just getting a bit delusional. It was probably our racing driver that they wanted. So I'm pushing, they're pushing. Gus knows. Don't let that truck be late, otherwise you'll incur the wrath of you-know-who. So he went. And did he care whether I'd got the gate open or not? No. He just ran me over. That is to say, he ran my ankle over with the back wheels of the truck. He didn't even hear me screaming. I'd been in hospital half an hour before he even found out what had happened. Anyway, what happened next was I got the ride of my life. Probably the most exciting ride in anything I've ever been in. Forget Alton Towers, this was way above that. It was quite obvious that when the ambulance turned up, the driver was probably part-time and he covered at the race circuits or something like that. He'd obviously been dying to get a customer in there. Well, I was his victim. He bundled me into the back of there and we went hurtling round the streets in Misano, the town in Italy where we were racing. And well, I'm sure we were hand-braking at every turn. The lights were flashing, the blue lights, the siren going, things were whizzing past the windows, there was a sound of the horn constantly. When I arrived at the hospital, I think I had more bruises on the rest of my body than the damage to my ankle. And so that was the end of my weekend. Now I should point out, I mentioned I may have been delusional, thinking that I was famous. Well, there would be occasionally reason for these people to think I was, because our professional and sometimes not quite professional racing driver couldn't be asked to go to the presentations. So he would send me, dress me up in his gear and off I'd go. So it's understandable. Here, if you don't believe me, take a look at this picture. See, it's understandable that people would mistake me from the hero racing driver. Ah, well, the long and the short of it was, I got to spend the whole weekend just sitting in the hospitality, watching the races and drinking beer. So that's it, and we'll see you next time.